say welcome to our online students. And here we are on page 396, chapter 6 practice test. Question number 1. What's that all about? Solve. But notice what it says. The replacement set is the set of integers. So we're not going to do both of them. You do both of them for homework, but we'll just do one of them. So let's do B. X minus 4 equals 9. So how do I solve that? I add 4. I want x by itself, so I add 4 to both sides, and I get x is 13. Now watch, on the test, if it says solve, you could just say x equals 13. But if it says what's the solution set, then you want to choose that one. The set whose element is 13. Anytime the test says, give me the solution set, you want to choose the one that's in the little braces. Problem 2. Find the solution set. So now they're telling you to find the solution set, and we're doing B again. You do both of them, but we'll just do B. And what's going on here is, remember, to solve it, we need to simplify. And simplify just simply means I want to go from all of this big mess of stuff down to x all by itself. So what's the first thing you want to do? I mean, you have a whole bunch of things you can do. The first thing I did was subtract 2 from both sides, and that gave me x is greater than or equal to negative x minus 3. Then I added x to both sides, and now I have 2x is greater than or equal to negative 3. Then I divided by 2 on both sides, and I get x is greater than or equal to negative 1.5. And it says find the solution set. So we have this little brace here. And it says integers. So if x has to be on a number line, if x has to be greater, here's negative 1, here's negative 2. If it has to be greater than negative 1.5, well, that didn't work. No, that would be a circle. It has to be greater than negative 1.5, but I can't use all numbers. I can only use integers. So that would be this one, and 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 dot, dot, dot. You follow me? So if they said, give me the solution set, you just write it in braces and go negative 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, dot, dot, dot. How many do you put in? Enough for someone to see what the pattern is. All right, let's go to number 3. Solve. And which one are we doing? A. 2x plus 2 equals 3x minus 2. And I just subtracted 2x from both sides. You go, why didn't you subtract 3x from both sides? I don't like using negative numbers any more than I have to. And I end up with 2 equals 3x minus 2x is x minus 2. Add 2 to both sides. And I get, no, that's not right. What's 2 plus 2? 4. made a mistake. So x, this set of x such that x equals 4. Which one is that? 3a, is that the correct answer? 3a, sure enough. It's a good thing we caught that mistake. I just made a mistake when I was working the problem. Can that happen when you're taking the test? The problem is you don't have an answer key to go look at to see what happened. So probably it would help to say, after you've done the work, look it over to see if you think you did it right, or look back to see if you made a mistake. Number 4. S is 3L plus 21. And it says to solve for L. That means I want L to be by itself, and I want L to equal a whole bunch of stuff over here. So I go minus 21, and I have S minus 21 equals 3 times L. Then I divide by 3, and I divide by 3, and I get L equals S minus 21 over 3. Now, can you see? Yes.
The problem says 3L minus 21, not 3L plus 21.
Oh, man. Boy, 3L minus 21. So that means I have to add 21. So now, my answer is S plus 21 over 3 equals L. Now, does this surprise you? One of his choices will be S plus 7. What's the mistake you make when you just write S plus 7? You only divide 21 by 3, but you have to divide S plus, you have to divide both S and 21 by 3. You follow that? So be careful that he doesn't draw you into making that kind of mistake. Is that what 4 says? Sure enough. If a woman wears a size 6 shoe, so if this woman's shoe is size 6, we put 6 in here for S. 21 plus 6 is 27, divided by 3 is, the length of her foot would be 9. Oh, there it is. Okay, number 5. Now, when this thing says solve for number 5, see that 2? Change to blue here. See that 2 and that, no, I thought I was changing the blue. That 2 and that 4. If I just take 4 times both sides, that clears out the whole fraction. So now I have 4 times x over 2 is 2x. 4 times 2 is plus 8, greater than or equal to 4 times all of this over 4, the 4's cancel, so it's just negative x plus 1, negative parentheses x plus 1, which comes out to be negative x minus 1. And then what do? I have plus 8, so I subtract 8 from both sides. And then, let's just erase this for a minute. That gives me, and then I add x to both sides. That gives me 3x is greater than or equal to negative 9. Then I divide by 3, and I get x is greater than or equal to negative 3. And how do they want the answer? It just says solve it. So I would look at the choices and pick negative 3. If it said give me the solution set, it would be a set with negative 3 inside. Everybody follow that? So watch out for that when you take the test. Number 6 says graph negative 2x. I'm doing B again. Negative 2x plus 4 is greater than x plus 1. So the first thing you do is simplify. And when I simplify, that means I subtract x from both sides, and that gives me negative 3x plus 4 is 1. Subtract 4 from both sides, and I get, let's erase this for a minute. Negative 3x is greater than negative 3. Then I divide by negative 3. And once I do that, that changes this to reversing the inequality sign. Remember that? So now I end up with x is less than 1. And if they want me to graph it, now for this one, okay, it doesn't say integers. So if it doesn't say, what is it? It's all real numbers. So to graph this, I go to 1, put a circle, and then go to the left. Everybody follow that? If it said or equal to, less than or equal to, I'd fill in the circle. So what about number 7? X plus 2 is greater than 3, and x is less than or equal, greater than or equal to 3, and x is less than or equal to 4. So the first thing I do, excuse me, so I can see what's going on here, as I simplify. So I minus 2, and now I have x is greater than or equal to 1, and x is less than or equal to 4. Okay, here's greater than or equal to 1. Here's less than or equal to 4. And change colors for that. And says it has to meet both conditions. What points on this number line would meet both of these conditions? Everything from here to here. And shade that in. Everybody follow that? Everybody follow what we just did? Then let's do 7. No, let's do 8. Now let's do one that says or. 8 says x is less than 0, or x minus 2 is less than 1. So I add 2 to both sides. And now I have x is less than 0, or x is less than 1. No, I made another mistake, didn't I? What should that be? Did I copy that down right? That would be x is less than 3. Wow, I made a bunch of mistakes on this one. Just got careless. So here's x is less than 0. And here's x is less than 3. And what would be or? Change it to red, or. If it could be either one of these, then and would be where they overlap. Or says it could be this one or this one. And you see where? So what would be either one of those? It would be this one here. Everybody follow that? Because it said or. And it has to meet both conditions, or it can meet either one of the conditions. Points that meet either one of the conditions. Number 9, solve. Can anyone read that? The absolute value of x equals 3. So x would be, what numbers could I put in here for x that would make a true statement? 3 or negative 3. Everybody follow that? Because both 3 and negative 3 have an absolute value of 3, a magnitude of 3, if you don't regard direction. So if it says solve, then you can just say plus or minus 3, or you can say 3 and negative 3. But if it says solution set, you better do this. The set whose elements are negative 3 and 3, or 3 and negative 3. It means the same thing either way. So read the questions carefully. Number 10. Graph the solution set of the absolute value of x is less than 2. Remember how we do this? We take this absolute value sign, put this x here, and then we go 2 and negative 2. So what this is really saying is x is between 2 and negative 2. So here's 2, and because it's less than, I put a circle on it. Here's negative 2, and I shade in between. And that's the graph of the absolute value of x is less than 2. So always use that technique where you take the x and then go, it's between the 2 and the negative, and the opposite of 2. 11 says graph x minus 2 is less than 2. So now I have x minus 2 is between 2, well, down here, between 2 and negative 2. So I want x, so I add 2 here in the middle, I add 2 here, I add 2 here, and I come up with 0 is less than x is less than 4. And since it says graph it, I put a circle at 4, a circle at 0, and connect in between. And can you see, when he puts choices on there, he'll have one graph with the circles open, and then he'll have another graph with the circles closed. Because he's trying to catch you making a mistake. And this is the wrong answer. Because you want the open circles because it's less than. The only way you can fill them in is if it says less than or equal to. Better check that, call that wrong. With those little dots on it. Number 12. Graph the solution set of the absolute value of x is greater than 2. So I just put x here and then go greater than 2, put 2 and negative 2. Same process again, but see, 2 is not less than negative 2. I mean, so you can't really read it. So what it really comes out to say is x is, reading this direction, x is less than negative 2 or x is greater than 2. I mean, I can use the same technique for setting it up, but because it says greater than, I'm going to have this or thing going on. So that means I put a circle here at negative 2 and go to the left, or I put a circle at 2 and go to the right. You follow that? And the key there is when you see this absolute value with a greater than. If you think about it, it says whatever x is going to be, the magnitude has to be greater than 2. So that means you'll have to go from 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on up, but from -2, -3, -4, -5 down on down, because you're looking for magnitudes that are greater than 2 rather than magnitudes that are less than 2 that would be in between those two. Number 14 says factor. So what two numbers multiplied would equal 2? 2 and 1. That's about it. Will those two numbers added, 2 plus 1, 2 plus 1 equal 3? Sure enough, so I go x here, and I go 2 and 1. Plus and plus. So I've just factored it. So the factors are x plus 2 times x plus 1. Did all of you find that little program on the internet that does factoring for you? Did you figure out how to use it? Then if you want to, you can bring it with you and use it in class when you take the test. But if you don't know how to use it, you're probably just well off to say, hey, I'll just do some trial and error here. The ones on the test I don't think are going to be that complicated. 14b, x squared minus 3x minus 4. So what two numbers multiplied will equal -4 and added will equal -3? Well, how many ways could I get -4? I could have -1 and 4. I could have 1 and -4. I could have 2 and -2. Or I could have -2 and 2. I guess that comes out to be the same, doesn't it? So which one of these pairs added will give me -3 in the middle? Looks like this one, right? I mean, just set up a bunch of parentheses and say put in all the possibilities and then see which one works. So it would be x minus 1 and x plus 4. Check it out. -1 times 4 is -4, and outside 4x and inside, whoops. That's not right. No, it's not that one. Which one is it? X plus 1 and x minus 4. See, when I went to check it, I'm going, no, that would give me -1x and plus 4x. That would be plus 3x. I want minus 3x. So I have to come down here and use this one. You follow what happened? I think I see it, and I picked the wrong one. So when I check it, I found, nope, that one doesn't work. So after you pick one, check it and say, nope, this is the one that works. Because outside, -4x, inside, let me change that to black. Outside, that FOIL thing, -4x, inside 1x, add them together, you get -3x, and 1 times -4 is -4. So I just factored it. Is that what they want me to do for this one? Is just factor them? Yep. And can you see he'll have all the other possibilities listed there, so you can pick the wrong one. Number 15 says solve. And what he just said here is this times this equals 0. So the only way to get 0 when I multiply two things is one of them has to be 0. So either x minus 1 is equal to 0, or x plus 2 equals 0. If x minus 1 is 0, add 1, then x equals 1. If x plus 2 is 0, minus 2, then x equals negative 2. Or the other way to look at it is, what would turn this into 0 if x was 1? What would turn this into 0 if x was negative 2? You see, there's a couple of ways to look at it to figure out how to make sense of it in your head. So the answer, when it says solve, the answer would be x is 1 or x is negative 2. But if it said give the solution set, then you would put it in brackets with the set, or braces with the brackets with the set negative 2 and 1. Number 16. Oh, 15b. Now this time, see, this is x times x minus 1. So either x is 0 or x is 1. Because you've got two things you're multiplying. Number 16. Solve. It says by factoring, so we just come down here and make a bunch of parentheses and go, what two numbers multiplied would equal 10? 1 and 10, 2 and 5, negative 1 and negative 10, negative 2 and negative 5. And then, if you add them, you get 7 in the middle. And there's where I get 7. So it looks like my factors are x plus 2 and x plus 5. Everybody follow that? I just listed all the possibilities and then looked for the two that work. So the answer would be, the solution set would be negative 2 and negative 5. Because that's what zeroes those out. If you want to use the quadratic formula to do this one, what would happen? A is 1, B is 7, and when you're using the quadratic formula, set up a formula with empty places in it. And if you don't know the formula, there it is. Write it down and put it in your notes and bring it with you. Y equals minus b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. But I make these empty spots, and then I say, okay, this is A, this is B, and this is C. So I come down here, and what's the, and see, watch, what's the first thing? I'll just erase all this. Because I was helping someone on the phone last night do this work, and it's just human nature. It's called total depravity. What number do you want to put in the first slot? The first number. What number do you want to put in the last slot? The last number. And that's not the way you do it. You'll miss it every time if you do that. This is B, so what goes here? 7. This is also B, so what goes here? 7. This is A, so what goes here? 1. This is C, so what goes here? 10. And then this is A, so what goes here? 1. You understand? There's no natural order for how they go in there. You just have to plug those numbers in and then do the math. And what happens when we do the math is we say, okay, so now we have negative 7 plus or minus the square root of 49 minus 40. over 2, which would equal -7 plus or minus the square root of 9 over 2. You're not done yet. The square root of 9 is 3. Everybody understand where that comes from? You probably ought to bring your chart of perfect square numbers with you so you can look at it to help you find. So now my answer is -7 plus 3 over 2, or -7 minus 3 over 2. So -7 plus 3 is -4, so this is -2. And -7 minus 3 is -10, so this is -5. Or, if they said solution set, you would go -5 and -2. That's the solution set. Is that right? Which one is that? X squared, 16, -5 or -2. All right. Number 17. Solve by factoring again. And the first thing you have to do is always make it equal to 0. So I had to subtract 10 from both sides. And so then I say, what two numbers multiplied give me -10? -1 and 10, 1 and -10, 2 and -5, -2 and 5. And when I add them, what gives me, change this to blue, when I add them, what gives me -3 in the middle? This one here. So, my answer is x plus 2 and x minus 5 equals 0. So the answer in a solution set form would be -2 and 5. Does everyone see how I'm just saying what zeros this out? 5. What zeros this out? -2. If you want to use the quadratic formula, then you go, what would that be? A is 1, B is -3, and C is -10. And I come down here and put minus a -3 minus a -3 squared minus 4 times 1 times -10 over 2 times 1. And what happens when I work that out? 3 plus or minus the square root of 9 plus 40 all over 2. 3 plus or minus the square root of 49 all over 2 is 3 plus 7 over 2 and 3 minus 7 over 2. That would be 5 and -2. Everybody follow the process? Number 18. Solve 9x squared minus 16. Okay, you could just make 2 parentheses. And how do you get 9x squared? 3x and 3x. And how do you get -16? -4 and +4. You go, how come there's no middle term? Well, FOIL it and see what happens. Outside is 12x. Inside is -12x. Oh, it comes out to be 0. You see what happens? When you see one like this, there's no middle term because the middle term disappears. So the answer is either 4/3 or -4/3. Now, watch out for this. This might be on the test. 9x squared plus 16. Make two parentheses. 3x and 3x and 4 and 4. And it could either be plus and plus, or it could be 3x and 3x and minus 4 and minus 4. But look what that produces in the middle. That produces negative 24x here and plus 24x here. So you understand? If you saw one like this, you would say not factorable. Or no solution. There is a solution, but you haven't learned how to do that yet. So at this stage of the game, if you see that with a plus in it, you go, no solution. It has to be negative before you can work on that. And part of that is because, watch, if 9x squared is 16, then change to green here. This would equal negative 16. Divide by 9. What number squared is going to equal a negative number? There is no real number that does that. So that's why you say no solution. If you see one like that. Number 19. Use the quadratic formula. So here's the quadratic formula. And the problem is 2x squared plus 3x minus 5. And do this every time. A is 2, B is 3, and C is negative 5. Circle it, then come up here and fill it in. 3 here, and 2 here, and negative 5 here, and 2 here. And then just do the math. Okay? Fill those things in often enough where you discipline yourself to follow that process. Number 20, same thing, except now I have to set it first. I have to get it equal to 0. So that means I subtract 2 from both sides. And now, oh, I didn't do it here. Okay, so watch what happens. This is A, this is B, and this is C. And fill it in and do the math. 21, the hypotenuse of a right triangle is what? 9 centimeters longer than the short side. So here's the short side x, and here's the hypotenuse. And it's 2 centimeters longer than the other one. So here's the hypotenuse minus those 2 centimeters for this other leg here. You follow the thinking? Or x plus 9 and x plus 7 are the 3 parts of the triangle. So am I done? You say, so I draw a picture of a triangle, I label the parts, x plus 9 for the hypotenuse, x for the short side, and x plus 7 for the other side. No, now I have to use the Pythagorean theorem, which says what? A squared plus b squared equals c squared, or c squared equals a squared plus b squared. So I come down here and put c squared equals a squared plus b squared. And then I work it out. And what's x plus 9 squared? That's x plus 9 times x plus 9. Do you know how to FOIL it? If you don't, go to the internet and say, how do you FOIL this thing? And you do the first times the first, x squared. And then you do the outside, plus 9x, inside, plus 9x, last times the last, plus 81. So this comes out to be x squared plus 18x plus 81 equals x squared plus 14x plus 49. and then plus x squared. And now we need to fix this thing so it's equal to 0. So I go minus x squared, minus x squared, minus 18x, minus 18x, and minus 81, and minus 81. And I have x squared minus 4x minus, I better be careful here, 87 minus 49, 38. And that equals 0. So I could just factor this and come up with what? What two numbers multiplied will equal negative 38? And if I add them, I'm going to get negative 4.
It should be negative 32.
Oh,
You did 49 minus 87.
yeah, I did. That's not, it's not 87, is it?
I think it's 81.
It's 81, yeah. Yeah, 81 minus 49 equals 32. I'm making a ton of mistakes today. So what two numbers multiplied will give you negative 32, that if you add them, you get 4. Or think of it this way. What two numbers, because one's negative and one's positive, what two numbers multiplied are 4 units apart from each other? Well, 32, what, I could have 16 and 2? Or I could have what? 4 and what? 8? Ah, there we go. If I wanted negative 4 in the middle, I would have negative 8 and positive 4. You follow that? So it's x plus 4 times x minus 8. Check it out. 4 times negative 8 is negative 32. 4x, negative 8x is negative 4x. So either x is negative 4 or x is 8. What are we looking at here? I can't have a negative number for the side of a triangle, so it has to be 8. If this is 8, then what's this one? 17. And what's this one? 15. There's the dimensions of the triangle, and that's what they wanted me to find. Number 22. Suppose you rent a car for 1 day. 1 day. At the rate of $21 plus 21 cents a mile. 21 cents times the number of miles driven. How many miles could you drive if you paid $63 to rent the car? So 63 equals 21 plus 0.21. So I subtract 21 from both sides and I get 42 equals 0.21 m. Divide by 21, divide by 0.21. Someone's not going to like this one. Remember before class we were doing one? What's 42 divided by 0.21? 200. Dividing by decimals just messes with your head, so just deal with it. So that means m is 200. So for $63 a day rent, I can drive 200 miles. If I drive more than that, it's going to cost more than $63. Skip problems 23 to 25. If you want to work them for fun, after class is over, but they're not on the test, and we just need to go to 26 so we can get this stuff all done before we run out of time. 26. On a certain day, the New York Stock Exchange reported that 608 stocks went up. So I just put 688 went up. 801 went down. and the rest were unchanged. 501 were unchanged. What's the ratio of losers to gainers? Losers were 801 to 688, or 801 over 688. What's the ratio of losers to the total? The total, I have to add all three together, and I get 1990. So it's 801 to 1990, or 801 over 1990. Can I reduce that down? It looks like I can. 8 plus 1 is 9, so I can divide by 3. So that would be 2, 6, 7 over, I can't divide that by 3, so 3 times 267 over, what can I do with 10 times 9, 199. You might bring your prime number chart with you just to save yourself some time and say, I might have to reduce it down. I might not be able to.
It doesn't. It's about 0.402513.
So what happens when you check this thing out? Number 26. Answer to be 801 over 1990. It can't be reduced down. Number 27. A supermarket is selling crackers 50 cents a box for 8 ounces and 76 cents a box for 12 ounces. Find the unit price. Okay, 50 cents. Okay, since they say find a unit price, so that means 50 to 8 equals something to 1. If 8 ounces for 50 cents, the unit price would be 1 ounce for what? And that would be what? 50 divided by 8? What's 50 divided by 8? 6.25. So 6.25. What's 76 divided by 12? 6.33. So which one's the cheaper one? This one. What's the question they're asking? Which is the better buy? So this one's the better buy. Let's see, when I'm walking around the store doing this stuff, in my head I go, hey, this is 8 ounces, so 24 ounces. Let me go back to red. 24 ounces would be 3 times that, $1.50, and 12 ounces times 2, 24 ounces here, would be 2 times 76, $1.52. So it looks like this one's a little cheaper. Number 28. When it says similar triangles, that means the dimensions are proportional. So if it says these two rectangles are similar, or these triangles are similar, as soon as it says similar, you know that the corresponding dimensions are proportional. So that means I can put 8 over 5, and that's going to equal the question mark over 9. Or I can put 5 over 9, and that's going to equal 8 over the question mark. You follow that? Or I can put the question mark over 8, and that's going to equal 9 over 5. And all of those problems will give you the same answer. 5 over 8 equals 9 over question mark. And how do you work them all? You cross multiply. Cross multiply. 5 times x equals 72. Divide by 5, divide by 5. X equals 1 5 is 5. 4 and 14 and 2/5. Is that the answer in the back of the... Find the missing length, 28? 14.4. Is that what 2/5 are? Yes. Number 24, number 29. The cost of fuel per hour for running an airplane is directly proportional. As soon as it says directly proportional, I write down C equals K times something. And it says proportional to the speed, to the square of the speed. So I have to square the speed. That's A. If it cost $100, B, for a speed of 150, that's the number I square. Find K. So 150 squared is 22,500. 100 divided by 22,500 is K. So K is 0.004444. So now that I know that, in place of K, I put this number. And then it says, for problem C, what's the cost for a speed of 180 miles per hour? So now I put 180 in here, and I square it, and get 32,400. And then I take 32,400 times 0.00444, and I get $144 for the answer, for what it costs. And 30 is the same way, except it says inversely proportional. And when it says that, that means I go T equals K over I, where I is the intensity. So for the problem, B, if the correct exposure is 1/30, so I put 1/30 here, equals K over 300. Find the value of K. Multiply both sides by 300 and K is 10. Now that I know K is 10, I come down here and draw the formula again, but in place of K, I put 10. So I can answer the last question. If I increase it to 600 units, what's the correct exposure time? 10 over 600 is 1 over 60. So the correct exposure time is 1/60th of a second. You photographers better get this stuff figured out. And that's the end of the test. So for some of you, I'll be in room 105 to let you take the test, and then after you take it, I'll grade it and go home and post your grade on Canvas. And then I'll bring your test to class on Friday, where you can just walk in here and correct it. And for the rest of you who can't make it over there on Thursday, you just come in here on Friday, take your test. As soon as you finish it, I'll grade it and give it right back to you, and you'll have time to correct it before, I think before class is over. If not, I think I said in the announcement, I'll make an appointment with you, so we'll find a time that works for you to get it fixed. Sometime Friday afternoon or Saturday morning. Okay? Don't get stressed. Just practice and be careful. And I'll see some of you tomorrow and the rest of you on Friday.